Okay, this is some recap starter work, so pause the video, have a go at these questions, and restart the video once you've done them. Okay, so you should have had a go at them questions. Also have a go at these two, please, and restart the video once you've done them. Then I'll go through each one. Okay, so going through each question. So you should have had a go at them yourself, and this should be enabling you to mark them. So having a go at the fractions question. First of all, we need to turn these into top-heavy fractions. So 3 2/5 will be 17/5, and 1 1/3 will be 4/3. Dividing fractions, you might have heard of the whole keep, change, flip tactic. So that means we keep this first fraction, so we keep that as 17/5. We change the divide to a times, and then we flip this fraction. So instead of being 4/3, it's now 3/4. And we go ahead and multiply these as we would usually with multiplication. So 17 times 3, that's going to be 17, 34, 51. And 5 times 4 is going to be 20. And we can put our answer back into a mixed fraction. So 2 and 11/20. Making this the subject. When we say make the subject, we want it to say a equals, because that would make a the subject. So just one step in this, we just want to square root. So once we square root, it's going to be the square root of c. And making w the subject here, going back to this question, actually, we could have positive or negative, because if we were to do a squared minus square root of c times y minus square root of c would also equal to c, because two negatives make a positive when we multiply. Making w the subject, well, we want the final line to say w equals. So let's see how we can do that. First of all, I would make my w not negative, because we don't want it to be negative in our final answer. So my first step here is going to be to add w to both sides. So that's going to leave me with y plus w equals to 3x. And then this y here is stopping me from having w on its own, so I'm going to subtract y from both sides. So w equals to 3x minus y as our final answer. Factorising here, we need to multiply to make the 60 and add to make positive 17. Make sure you keep an eye on them signs, so it's positive 60 and positive 17. I can write my factors of 60 out here. This will help me out. So 60 and 1, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 18, no, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 12. Should have known that, shouldn't I? And then 6 and 10. So we need to think, how can these add or subtract in a way to make 17? Well, obviously these aren't going to work. 5 and 12, that can make 17 in a way. 6 and 10, that's going to make 16 or 4. 4 or 15 is going to make 19 or 11. And 20 and 3 could also make 17 if we did 20 subtract 3. So we've got a few options to look at this time, but we're just going to work through it in a systematic way. We know that because it's a positive number here for the positive 60, we either need two positive numbers or two negative numbers, because that's how we multiply to make a positive. I know it's not going to be two negative numbers, because if I add two negative numbers together, I'm not going to get positive 17. That's just not possible. We'd get a negative number. So I know these both need to be positive, because that's the only way we're going to add them to make a positive 17 and multiply them to make a positive 60. Looking back at my numbers, if I had 3 plus 20 in my brackets, that would be 23. So that isn't going to work. If I do 5 plus 12, that's going to give me 17. So I know in my brackets I want x plus 5 and x plus 12. You can have them the other way around as well. So x plus 12, x plus 5. Looking at our other two, so simultaneous equations. We want the coefficients of these to be the same, and by coefficients I just mean the number before the letter. So 4 would be the coefficient of this term 4x, and 2 would be the coefficient of this term 2x. Once we make them the same, we can eliminate one, and then we can solve it like a regular equation. So if I label this equation 1 and this equation 2, I'm going to times equation 2 by 2. What that's going to do is make, instead of 2x, 4x, instead of minus 5y, minus 10y, and instead of equals 10, it'll be equals to 20. 1 second, I put 4y there when I should have put 4x. Okay. Now, if I go back to writing equation 1 underneath, so equation 1 is here, that's my new equation 2. That's going to be 4x minus 2y equals to 8. I can get rid of the x's here if I subtract these equations from each other. So if I do 4x take away 4x, that gives me 0. Minus 10y minus 2y, or minus, sorry, negative 2y. So they can get a bit, this is quite a difficult example, this one. But remember, when we subtract a negative number, that becomes a positive. So it's actually saying minus 10y plus 2y. So that's going to be minus 8y. So minus 8y. And then 20 take away 8 is 12. So from here, it's going to be, we're going to divide by minus 8. So y would equal minus 1.5. We then take that and just substitute it into any of the equations we have. I'll just pick the easiest one. I think equation 1 will be my easiest one to substitute this into. So 4x plus 2 lots of negative 1.5 equals to 8. So 4x minus 3 equals 8. So 4x equals 11, x equals 11 over 4. Not very nice answers, but they're not always going to be, so just be confident with your work in there. Finding the equation of this line. First of all, we need to find the gradient. Once we have a gradient and a point, we can figure out the equation of this line. So the gradient is going to be my change in y over my change in x. My change in y is going from, so 0, 6, that means 0 across, 6 up, and we go all the way to 12 up. So my change in y is going to be 6, from 6 to 12. And my change in x is gone from 0 to 3. So my gradient equals 2. I can then say, well, my regular equation of a line, all straight lines have to be in this form, y equals mx plus c. So I can say, well, my line is going to be in the form y equals 2x plus c, because I know the gradient's 2. I can then plug in any of the points I've got. I'm going to use this point here, 0, 6, because I've got 0 in there, it's going to give me less work to do. So 6 where y is, and 0 where x is. And that's going to get me to c equals to 6. So my final equation of a line is I need to take this value of c and replace it here. So y equals to 2x plus 6 is my final answer.